Hello and welcome to today's webinar. The shared responsibility model means you need data protection for your SaaS apps. Today's event is brought to you by Unitrends and produced by Actual Tech Media. Now, before we get started with today's event, there's a few things that you should know. First off, we want this to be an educational event. So we encourage you to use the questions box there in the GoToWebinar console to ask all your questions. We have experts from Unitrends available to answer those questions throughout the event, and we'll be doing a dedicated Q&A session at the end of today's event. So we encourage you to ask as many questions as you'd like about software as a service data protection, and we'll do our best to get all of your answers. We also have today's slide deck available for download there in the Handouts tab of your web browser. So feel free to download those and check those out after the event. Share them with your friends and colleagues. And finally, we have a prize. We have an Amazon $300 gift card to announce at the end of today's event for one lucky attendee on the live event. If you're watching this event on demand, I'm sorry, the drawing has already occurred. Prize terms and conditions can be found at our website, events.actualtechmedia.com. And with that, I'm excited to introduce you to today's expert presenter. That is Mr. Matt McDermott, Director of Product Management at Unitrends. Matt, thank you for being on. Take it away.
Hello and welcome. This is Matthew McDermott, Microsoft Office Servers and Services MVP and a Product Manager for Spanning Backup for Office 365. I want to wish you good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're joining us. This webinar is the shared responsibility model and what it means for data protection for your SaaS apps. The fact is, organizations lose SaaS data every day from Office 365, G Suite, and Salesforce for a number of different reasons. In this webinar, we're going to talk about your responsibility as a SaaS user, administrator, owner, whatever you want to call it. What is your responsibility to help prevent organizational data loss from SaaS applications? In a report by Trends in SaaS Data Protection, it was discovered that 77% of companies that use SaaS applications had suffered a data loss incident over the 12-month period prior to the report. This is so important because a lot of companies think that because the cloud offers all of the benefits of ease of use, scalability, etc., that it also automatically covers data loss. And the reality is that is not true. In fact, in a Ponemon Institute survey, it was discovered that 197 days is the average time that it takes for companies to realize that they have a data breach. 197 days is a lot longer than most SLAs for data recovery for SaaS applications. The other glaring reality is that IT still owns data protection, even though IT no longer owns the application platforms that are running the systems that are being used by the company. Back when we had everything on premises and it was all under our control, IT owned the entire stack. Users, data, application administration, the application itself, the operating system, all the way down to the network. But today, IT no longer owns the app. Applications like Office 365, SharePoint Online, Exchange Online, Gmail, Salesforce, all of those applications are owned by the parent company and not by the application users or the IT department. But IT is still responsible for the data. The data contained in those applications is the responsibility of IT, and these companies make it very plain in their language that while the platform uptime is the responsibility of the company, the data is owned by the users, the customers, and in our case, IT. In the case of Office 365, Microsoft makes it very plain that they will only cover their mistakes. They won't fix yours. So if you have a data deletion error, if you have a script that runs crazy, they can restore full site collections, for example, in Office 365's SharePoint Online, but they cannot restore individual documents that have already been purged out of the recycle bin. Their solution to that is to roll back the entire site, which may take anywhere from 7 to 10 days, and not only restore the data that was deleted, but also reset the clock, if you will, on the information and content stored in that site. These bullet points are taken directly from Microsoft's Service Level Agreement, where they indicate that they are not responsible for data loss that is a result from unauthorized action, people hacking in, or lack of action. For employees or agents, contractors, and vendors that have access to your systems, you're responsible for that information and the data loss that happens as a result of it. There's other things like data loss that results from failure to adhere to required configurations, supported platforms. This could be scripts, things like that, that cause data loss, or that result from faulty input, instructions, or arguments. So this could be end-user related errors or script-related errors. But ultimately, the responsibility for the information contained in Office 365 falls on you. So Microsoft's responsibility is for the big things: hardware failure, software, natural disasters, power outages, and delete requests. So the delete request there is ultimately if a customer has, for example, a compliance or GDPR request for deletion, Microsoft can handle that. But content in your site that is your responsibility, that falls on you as a result of human mistakes or programmatic errors, a malicious or angry insider, external hackers that get into your content as a result of compromised credentials, or ransomware and viruses. All of this is your responsibility as the data owner for your company. It's your data, it's your job. And the vendors and the analysts agree. With Office 365, it's your data, you own it, you control it. Salesforce says that they recommend using a partner backup solution from AppExchange. In fact, just recently, Salesforce has announced the end of life of their own backup and restore solution. And with G Suite, they simply put that Google does not own your data. That absolves them of any issues related to data loss as a result of your company's errors, your employees' errors, your IT department's errors. Analysts from ESG and Gartner also agree. Their advice is that if you're moving to cloud applications, that you have a data protection solution available. Gartner goes so far as to say that SaaS providers do not come close to providing the level of features required to cover you in the event of data loss. Guy Kreese recently released a report on when to leverage third-party solutions to back up Office 365. His analysis said that customer-written backup plans tended to include complex recovery point objectives and recovery time objectives, whereas Office 365 offers no contractual RPO or RTO. This means that if you do not have a plan, when a data loss event occurs, you are not covered by Microsoft. You're not covered to the extent that many IT departments are accustomed to being covered on-prem when they own everything. You might be thinking to yourself that you're not as worried about your security because you're using multi-factor authentication. And the CISA has just come out and said that the use of multi-factor authentication is the single best mitigation technique to protect against credential theft for Office 365. And that is true. It's imperative that you do everything you can as an IT professional to protect the assets of your company by using tools that are available to you, either through Office 365 native or through add-on services. So in the case of multi-factor authentication, you can use Office 365's multi-factor authentication to protect not just privileged accounts, but all accounts from password takeover. The challenge is that a lot of companies do not do this. They don't take this one extra step. They might only secure their global administrators, which means that the frontline worker whose account gets compromised is then used by a malicious actor to send emails internally that appear internal that are actually phishing attempts. In fact, recently Microsoft shut down thousands of domains that were being used for phishing attempts from another Office 365 domain. So these are being sent internally. In fact, one of them was really clever. They just substituted the letters of M for Microsoft with an R and an N. So when you looked at it quickly, it looked like Microsoft, but in fact it wasn't. And Microsoft is doing the best they can to shut these domains down and prevent them from propagating further inside your tenant. At Spanning, we even go so far as to ensure that our product uses the latest OAuth techniques rather than using service accounts, because compromised service accounts and service credentials, accounts that you're using for your automation, if they get compromised, that's the same as losing your global administrator password. These tools, they become a backdoor into your environment, and you are therefore at risk. And that's what our biggest concern is. So at Spanning, we're using OAuth because that allows us to not only get consent from your global administrator, but also present the scope upon which we can act so that you don't have to use a global administrator password with our tools. And so you should investigate if you have other tools where that might be an attack surface, whether it's through a cloud service provider or other auditing tool that might require a service account with a username and password as opposed to using OAuth. This is a link directly to the CISA report so that you can evaluate the outcomes yourself. So aside from fearing data loss, you really need to have a plan to recover from a data loss event. If you don't have a data loss event, if you don't have a history of having a data loss event, you are very lucky. Because the reality is these kinds of events happen every day to companies all around the world in all sorts of different platforms. Spanning Backup for Office 365 is a solution that offers protection of Office 365 data. Spanning Backup for Office 365 backs up mail, calendar, contacts, OneDrive, and SharePoint data. We offer an administrative interface as well as an end user interface to be able to restore content directly back into the services where they came from. So in the case of mail, we can back it up into our cloud and then restore it back into your mailbox or another end user's mailbox in something we call cross-user restore, which is a great solution for restoration of content in the event of an employee leaving or some other compliance action that you need to take. Let me show you how it looks. Spanning Backup for Office 365 installs as an Azure app. It takes about 90 seconds to install it and get it up and running in your environment. Once you've done so, you can navigate to Spanning Backup for Office 365 by choosing an app tile, if you want to install it that way. And then I can see my users from here. If I want to add more users to my trial, I simply go to Manage Licenses, and then I can select or deselect the users that I want to add. These users will then be protected for their mail, calendar, contacts, and OneDrive contents. Likewise with SharePoint, SharePoint is included in your trial. You can protect in trial up to 10 site collections, but after you've decided to purchase, you can protect all of your site collections and even protect new site collections without having to return to the Spanning user interface by choosing automatically backup new site collections. Let's look at what a end user restore would look like. I'm logged in as Megan Bowen, and I get a report that Deborah needs some mail restored. So I can come in here to Deborah's account. I can choose View Backups, and I can find the content that she's looking for. She has an email labeled important that she needs to recover. Here's the one from Alan and another from Alex. We're going to select the two of those for recovery, and I'm going to choose to restore that content. Now, since I'm logged in as an administrator, I can restore it back into Deborah's mailbox, or I can choose a different user for restoration. In the event that you have content that you need to share between users, in the event that you have a compliance event where you need these emails to be evaluated by a third party, you can do that by choosing different user. In this case, we'll go ahead and restore it back into Deborah's account. I'll choose Next, and then we'll do the restore. The process is similar for calendars, contacts, and OneDrive. Now that our restore is done, if I go to the activity log and look at past activities, I can see that this administrative mail restore occurred for Deborah. We preserve the logs of all the activities that happen in Spanning Backup for Office 365, and these are immutable logs. They cannot be purged from the system. So you'll always know what was done and by who. Once Deborah logs in, she can go to Outlook, find the Restored On folder, and see the 2 important emails that we restored for her. The key here is that you have options with Spanning Backup for Office 365. If you want, you can have your administrators always be the ones responsible for doing restores for end users. In the case of Spanning Backup for Office 365, we also offer an end user interface so that if you choose to, you can have the end users perform their own restores. They do have a slightly trimmed user interface that allows them access to their personal content. So if Deborah wants to come in here and perform a OneDrive restore, she can choose those documents, choose to either restore or export them. If she restores them, the restored content ends up back in her OneDrive, and then she can go see the activity for that OneDrive restore. Visiting her OneDrive, she sees a Restored On folder with the documents contained therein. From here, she has a lot of options. She can choose to move them back in her OneDrive to a new folder if she wants to create a new folder, or to the root of her OneDrive if that's where she wants it. But ideally, an end user has the options to manage the restoration of their data on their own. If I return to the user interface for Megan as an administrator, the biggest difference here is that Megan also has access to do SharePoint restores. So if we come in here and I choose the site collection for the Contoso intranet, I can view the backups for the Contoso intranet. I can find the backups of the demonstration documents. And in this case, I'm going to choose 2 documents. Again, I can choose to restore them to the same site collection or to a different site collection. For example, if I have a compliance action and I want to take some documents from a backup and restore them to a site collection that the compliance officer has access to, I can do that here. Choose Next and choose Restore. We can check the activity log, and I can see that this is where the view option or the view activity took place, that Megan looked at those backups. While that restore is taking place, I want to point out a new feature that we have for Spanning Backup for Office 365 called Dark Web Monitoring. This is Spanning's way of protecting you from your users and data breaches that are occurring outside of your organization. We have monitoring in place for the domain that are part of your Office 365 tenant. We demonstrate the origin of that breach. For instance, the Canva marketing website breach. I would want to go look at and talk to these 2 users to make sure that they've changed their passwords recently, if that's necessary. We've got the Elasticsearch server breach, and we actually show the first couple letters of the password that was detected. Even though the full password is out there, we're only going to show the first couple. It's enough to begin the conversation with your users about password security. I'm going to return to activity, and I can see my site collection restore. Choose the Restored On site, open up the documents, find the 2 documents that I want to restore, and then go ahead and move them to the location where I need these documents returned. I'll go ahead and create a new folder called Mark 8, and then move the folders there, or move the documents there. Once they're moved, we can navigate to the site and go into the general folder, the Mark 8 folder we just created, and our blog posts are back. I think the last thing that's worth mentioning is we do offer some enhanced security. If you want to bring your own key, we offer the encryption key management system that will let you use your own encryption key. We also offer an API token capability so that you can use our PowerShell module to do user management. And then, although we do support all of your global admins out of Office 365, we also let you create your own admins so that they can manage, so people that are not global administrators can manage your backups as well. We're really proud of our Office 365 offering with spanning backup for Office 365. I hope you found some value today in the presentation to help you understand more about what is protected in Office 365 and what your responsibility is. Spanning backup offers to protect, recover, and help you comply with your data protection and business continuity needs with spanning backup for Office 365, spanning backup for G Suite, and spanning backup for Salesforce. I want to thank you for your time today, and I'll be more than happy to take some questions from the question queue. Thanks.
Great presentation, Matt. We do have a number of questions here for you from the audience.
That's great. It sounded like you had a little bit of echo going on there on your desktop for a second.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it sounds great now. Sounds great.
Okay, good. All right, let's see. First question that came in, they're asking, are you saying that Microsoft cannot restore our data? Can you clarify that?
No. What Microsoft deems recoverable data is from disasters. So, for instance, they have multiple data centers that are that will allow them to, even if they have a disaster at a data center, like a fire or a hurricane, or like the lightning strike that hit the San Antonio data center, Microsoft has you covered. What they don't cover you for is an angry employee that deletes your data. If you have 10 days to get your data back once you realize it's gone. And their SLA for SharePoint specifically covers them for a 10-day window after the deletion event for them to be able to restore it. And the other challenge there is that when you know that you've had a deletion, then you have to get Microsoft to do the restore. And if the time period between the deletion and the restore, people are adding new content to that site, and the restore is going to pave over that content. So you definitely have to have some. So you have to know that that's going to happen. You have to understand the impact of that site restoration and what it's going to cause, and whether it's worth it or not.
Got it. Okay, I appreciate that clarification. Another question: does dark web monitoring only protect the users with spanning licenses?
No, it doesn't. The way that we license dark web monitoring is it is 50 cents on top of the monthly charge for each license, and we cover all domains in your tenant. So if you have, let's say you have 4 additional domains that are in your tenant, for every user that you license, 50 cents extra, and you're covering all of those tenant domains. So it's a per user license on top of your regular spanning license.
Okay, important point there. Thank you. Next question, Frank is asking, can you describe a situation where an angry employee can cause data loss that Microsoft cannot recover?
Yeah, absolutely. So if Frank has access to the site recycle bin, then he can delete the content like a library. He can purge the recycle bin and purge the second stage recycle bin, and then it's gone from the database. So now you have that 10-day window. So if Frank is patient and he waits 10 days, the data will be gone and it will be unrecoverable.
Okay. All the more reason you got to have a data protection for SaaS in place
Definitely.
there. Here's an interesting one. They're asking, they said they heard about Salesforce discontinuing support for restoration of data. How can they do that?
So what Salesforce discontinued, because we heard about that too, and of course we have a promotion going because of that. What Salesforce did was they discontinued their professional service for restores. Essentially, what they're doing is rolling back to the Microsoft and Google model, where they'll cover you for disasters, they'll cover you for data center errors, but they won't cover you for bad actors that have access to your content that are working inside using your credentials. So essentially, it's the same SLA that Microsoft and Google are using. What they did was they got rid of an additional professional service that they were offering that provided data recovery.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. Next question. If I roll out MFA to my employees, how can I still be at risk for compromised credentials?
So I hear this a lot because generally questions like this are looking at Office 365 or Google alone. So definitely use MFA, but also remember that a compromised credential could be used in another system. For instance, using your email address from your company and logging into um, like Adobe Cloud or logging into Bitly to do, or Twitter, the Twitter account for the company. When you log into those accounts and use the same password that was compromised somewhere else, because that's just what the marketing department does, then that account is at risk outside your domain. So even though you have MFA on your Office 365 credentials, if you're not using multi-factor authentication in those other services, then you're going to be at risk.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Next question. Jeff is wanting to clarify, is spanning also good for G Suite and Gmail backups?
Absolutely, it is. And so we have Spanning has three products, one for Salesforce, one for G Suite, and one for Office 365. The demo I gave was for Office 365 because that's sort of my baby right now. I'm the product manager for the Office 365 product.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Next question. This one's interesting. They said, so you're saying that as an IT person, I still have a job. What recommendations do you have for IT managers who don't have the final say in the purchase of a service? How can we protect our company?
Well, it's a challenge. And even though you don't have the final say, you should have some say. And so I think what you need to do is evaluate the product, whatever it is, whether it's Spanning or another product. You need to evaluate the product that it meets your business needs. You need to test that product with a trial. You need to ensure that it is compliant, that it meets your company's security and compliance standards. And essentially, you need to be the voice of reason when people just want to get the job done and check the box. Make sure that you're choosing a secure source. Make sure you're choosing one that meets your needs and has the features in it that you need. And ask the hard questions when you test the service. I know that I get involved in some of the sales cycles simply because people are asking some really hard, real specific SharePoint or Office 365 questions. Be that person. Make sure you vet the solution.
Awesome. Awesome. I know we've got a lot of good questions coming in. Do you see any other questions there in the queue that you want to immediately
There's
cover at
one
this point?
there's one here that I'm seeing that says, "Is there automated monitoring and alerting?" And then right after it says, "Okay, thanks." So I think that was coming in during the demo. But yeah, we do. Spanning has daily status emails that we send out, as well as logs and alerts inside the application itself. Um, Another one from Seth is sort of some conjecture. Seems to be even more spamming and phishing going around with COVID-19 and everyone working from home. I can't confirm that there's more, but I would say that I think people just have to be more suspicious now than ever before. And that was true before COVID, but certainly now when people are working from home, they might be a little less formal in their their office attire as well as their office environment. And so just making sure that they're being much more cautious with phishing emails, ensuring that there are um, that your company is being more cautious. Like I said, MFA is a huge step forward, at least to protect Office 365 and G Suite, but Salesforce also offers MFA, and it's a great first step. But ultimately, being covered for bad actors, people that already have your credentials, is a real key.
Okay. Excellent. Let's see. Final question I wanted to ask you is How should people get started? If this resonates with them, they feel they really need this, what should they do?
I think they should start at spanning.com, and you can sign up for a trial there. You can actually, if you have the time and you have the ability, you can even initiate a trial on your own. The installation takes about 90 seconds, and you can get it done. And we are having a couple more questions pop into the queue. The CCPA compliance question, I'm almost positive we are. I don't handle I'm not directly involved in the security, but we do have a security page on our website that would indicate all of our compliance standards. We are SOC 2 Type 2 compliant, and have a lot of benefit from that. Are there any workflows that can be implemented or automated remediation based on triggered alerts and events? That is a mouthful, Alex, but directly inside of Spanning, we don't have that, but we are rolling out some new alerting features that would allow you to take action on errors when you are when they are encountered, and we're bringing that out in the next quarter. Is there any recommendation for division on which application should have the MFA, which should not, or if this is a business decision? I don't think it's I think it's a business decision at the highest point. I think that every application that you are offered multi-factor authentication, you should take advantage of. It just adds that extra layer of security that you need. The challenge comes when you have shared credentials. So like the marketing department might have a shared credential. But wherever possible, I urge you not to use shared credentials because it does run into this exact problem. But there are ways around it. You can use secure tokens. You can use a secure key, and it just means that the person has to, instead of using a phone, has to be able to have the key from the office to be able to unlock that password. Gordon's asking, when did Spanning become part of Kaseya? I've been with Spanning since October of last year, and we were part of Kaseya back then. And Shweta, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm gonna end the question and answer right there. You're always welcome to ping me at spanning.com. I'd be more than happy to answer any additional questions. But I think that we're ready to roll on.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Matt, it's been really great having you on. I love the live demo of the product in action. I know the audience did as well. You covered tons of great questions that came in from the audience. Before we go, I want to remind everyone to visit spanning.com and check out the solution for yourself. Give it an evaluation and see how it might help you and your company. Matt, thank you so much for being on the event today.
It's my pleasure. Thanks so much for hosting.
Thank you to our audience. Before I go, I want to award the Amazon $300 gift card that is going to Michael Chung from California. Congratulations, Mike Chung from California. We'll reach out to you to deliver that gift card. I hope everyone has a great day. Take care, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.